Welcome back and welcome to another tag video. I haven't done a tag video for a while, but I did the mid-year book freakout tag during June at some point last year, and I've been intending to do it again this year to see how my tastes have changed and what made it onto the list this year. I know we're now into July, however, I've just had so many awesome things to share with you between like now and June and now, and also I was away for a lot of June, as you know, so sorry it's late, but here it is. I will leave a link to my original video up here so that you can go if you want to watch and compare and contrast. I looked back at that video and I was like, oh, it's quite different this year. All of these questions are all obviously incredibly hard to answer because nobody likes to pick favourites. None of us like to name favourites or things that didn't quite hit the mark for us. So, too long of an introduction there, let's get on with it. I've got my list here. So, best book so far of 2018. I could name so many, especially right now. I've been having such a good reading month in July. So I'm like, should I only include things up to June? Anyway, so I've decided to pick two, of course. I love these books, these Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, book 1 and book 2. I think they're both absolutely beautiful and could totally have been made into the most beautiful book I bought this year category. However, I thought I would include these because they are non-fiction, and you don't see a whole lot of non-fiction on BookTube. Now, I know these books have had some criticism. I made a whole video about it. I will link it up here, and you can see me just fangirl over those books in that video. A lot of the books I'm going to talk about I have made videos for, so I will try and leave a whole link in the comments. Maybe I need a whole playlist of this tag's videos, because yeah, I can't link them all above, but these books, if you haven't read them, I got this one out the library and then I bought myself a copy, so see if you can get them out in the library because they're fabulous. Then, best sequel of 2018. Again, I'm going to kind of cover two because they're both not necessarily sequels but spin-offs. So I absolutely loved the sequel to Dumpling, which is called Pudding, and which I made a whole video talking about, so I will link somewhere either up here or down here. I loved that, and again, it was a spin-off, not a sequel, but it was fantastic. And I also loved Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli, which I made a whole video about. What's new there? I don't have a copy because I gave my copy to somebody because it was such an amazing book. You have to pass on the joy, don't you? So yeah, those two as sequels. New release I haven't read yet, definitely Little Do We Know by Tamara Island Stone. My hold on this one from the library just came in. She is one of my favourite writers. I absolutely loved Clicked, which is her middle grade release from last year, and I really, really loved her two sort of time travelling novels as well, which me sitting here saying I loved her time travelling novel is quite a big thing because that's not something I read an awful lot about. So I just love her writing, and how beautiful is this book. It's just gorgeous. I just love the cover. It doesn't quite like swipe all the way onto the back. I don't know what the naked book looks like because it's a library book. It's green. We have a green book inside because they obviously tape it on at the library, and since yeah, I was waiting for it because they hadn't got their copy in yet, but it is textured as well. Like, there's so much interesting stuff in those paper curls. That might be a try before you buy. It might be one that I read and then buy for myself. Most anticipated release for the rest of 2018. I do know that this is an author that I've already mentioned. It would be What If It's Us by Adam Silvera and Becky Albertalli. Very excited to read that one. I've seen people reading a few early proofs and I'm like, oh, so jealous. But also, the more I wait, the better it'll be, I am sure. Biggest disappointment? We're not putting negative out there this time. Skipping that question. Biggest surprise. Okay, now biggest surprise isn't a negative thing. I had not read anything by this author before, and then I got a physical proof and an e-proof of this book, and then I ended up managing to go to the launch of it, and it's a good job because I loved it so much. And I hadn't read anything by her before, and I don't read a lot of kind of thriller ones, but this one, Our House by Louise Candlish, made a whole video about it, did a little review and vlog of the launch party. This one just had me holding my breath in anticipation. I thought it was so cleverly structured. I loved it. Go and watch my video of my review because I fangirl over it loads more. And it is coming out here in the US next month. So that's very exciting too. Then, favourite new author. Again, I've tried to go with something different, and it doesn't mean that they are now my new favourite author. It means that they are the favourite out of all the new authors that I've discovered this year. Again, it could be a massive list, but I've decided to go for Amanda Lovelace, who wrote The Princess Saves Herself in this one and The Witch Doesn't Burn in this one, which I have 2 copies of. Again, I made a whole video talking about why I love this author, and I got to see her speak at BookCon at a panel, which was very, very exciting for me. It was just great to meet her in person, and I loved these books, and I will be coming back to them again probably at some point this year, but yes, I read these this year and I loved them, and she is my new favourite author, and she's a poet. How cool is that? It makes me sound so cultured. Then we have newest fictional crush. Again, I don't have a physical copy of this book because it's not out in physical form yet. The ebook is out though, and I loved it. I would go for Sam from One in a Million. I didn't like him at the beginning of the book, but it was that trope of enemies to lovers for me, because I loved the book first of all, but then also as he grew and changed over the course of the book, I just developed a big crush on him. It was rather wonderful. So yeah, definitely go and read that one out and check out Dr. Sam. Then we have newest favourite character. Again, there's so many favourite characters that I could have picked. However, I decided to go from Zach by Little Big Man because he is just a wonderful 10-year-old who just carries this book, and I would have loved to have been his teacher and loved to have had some sort of interaction with him, because he is just, yes, wonderful. And some of the things are so typical of that age group, and 10-year-old boys are definitely like underrated. They get a bad rap that they're just, you know, smelly and annoying, which, you know, is very general, but I love teaching that age group, and I loved to see him represented in this book. I made a whole video talking about this book as part of some awesome 5-star reads that I did, so I will link that somewhere. Go and watch it, and you can watch a more detailed description of why Zach is my new favourite character. Then we have Book That Made You Cry. That book, the one that instantly jumped to mind, even though it's not the only one that's made me cry, but it made me cry in more than one part. And that is 5 Years From Now by Paige Toon. I made a whole video talking about this one, so I will link that up here since I don't have the actual book. That will definitely get linked up here. And yes, it's such a page turner, but it will definitely make you cry. Then, just to counteract that, Book That Made You Happy. I'm going to mention 2 because they made me happy for different reasons. So many of the books that I've read, I'm at like 110 or something so far this year, and so many of them made me so happy. All of these books that I've talked about here made me so happy, and, you know, invoked all sorts of emotion in me. But just so I can share even more books with you, I read Why Mummy Drinks and Why Mummy Swears by Jill Sims. Why Mummy Swears is out today in the UK, and Why Mummy Drinks is already out. I listened to the audiobook of that one and it was fabulous. Really recommend it. And I read this one. in all its glorious paperback proof copy beauty. This book and its predecessor just made me laugh so much. She says things that mummies are not meant to say, but that they all should be saying and that they all should be talking about. And so it made me happy because it just made me laugh out loud a lot, which is quite hard for a book to do, because when you're sat in the library reading your book, you don't necessarily want to be chortling out loud because people look at you. Nah. And then the other book that made me really happy was Big Bones by Laura Dockrill, and I made a whole review on this one, so I will link it so you can go and watch me fangirl over this one. This book made me happy for a different reason than the last one. This book made me happy because we've got somebody who is in love with her body and in love with the curves and the rolls of her body, and it isn't the typical body shape that we are taught that we should be in love with, but she is so in love with her body and she embraces everything about it, and also she is in love with food and embraces everything about that. And so the description of the food in this book made me so happy as well, particularly the description of the crumpets, which Laura Dockrill drew all over when I went to see her at the Lush Book Club. But yeah, particularly the description of the crumpets, and particularly the description of her ideal boyfriend being a croissant. So that book made me happy for those reasons. It also made me laugh as well, but just so I can justify having 2 books in that category, you know? Then favourite book to movie adaptation. Again, I'm really sorry to have mentioned this author like 3 times in this video, but it has to be Love, Simon, which, as you know, is the adaptation of Simon vs. the Homo sapiens agenda. And surprise, surprise, I made a whole video about why that is an awesome book to movie adaptation. So I will link that up or down. Check the description box for all the links, because I can be much more concise and get my point across when I'm making a video about just one book, rather than trying to tell you why all these books are on this list, because we don't want this video to be massively long, do we? Then we have the favourite review that I've written. Now, it's a funny one, your favourite review. Now, I went for one that I've written on my blog, which I will leave a link to below, the actual review, rather than one that I've talked about on here, because a lot of the books that I've already talked about and the last ones that I'm going to mention, I have made video reviews of, but I've already said that I'm going to link them. So this review is possibly the longest review I've ever written, and it's quite a long book, so it goes quite well with the book. But I think it was like something like 8 paragraphs or something like that, chunky paragraphs, and it got a good response from the author as well, so that makes me happy. And that was my review of Somewhere Beyond the Sea by Miranda Dickinson, which I obviously absolutely love. This goes into the books that made me happy category as well, because it was just so lovely. And also another child character that I just absolutely loved. I loved Nessie in this one, and the sea and the sea glass, and oh, it's just beautiful. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting all like wistful with my book. It's so hard talking about so many amazing books in one video and not want to be like, okay, I'm just going to stop making this video now and go away and reread all of them. Yeah, that's probably my favourite review, but as I say, I've linked lots of other reviews. Then, most beautiful book you bought this year. 2 here. One is The Surface Breaks by Louise O'Neill, which is a retelling of The Little Mermaid, which I was slightly disappointed in. If we're going to put something in the biggest disappointment category, maybe we'll pop it in there, because I heard it was a really feminist retelling and I felt the feminism could have been sooner. But I have a video on my Instagram of just how beautiful this book is, and the Naked Book and the Dust Jacket are both absolutely beautiful. If you get a chance, pop down to my Instagram, which is always linked below, and I've got a sunny day video of that one, so you can see the beauty of it. But the most beautiful book that I bought, not long after buying that book, to be fair, that I have here and now is the US edition of You Me Everything by Catherine Isaac. Surprisingly, I made a video talking about how much I love this book, and I just think that the US copy is just stunning, and they seem to have got some of the aspects of the colours on this one for the UK paperback copy, which comes out in 2 weeks in the UK. This one is out in the US, and the UK hardcover edition is currently out in the UK, but the UK paperback is coming out in 2 weeks. 2 weeks today. And I really do love the US edition. And yeah, I'm going to make a video soon showing you my collection. That's what it looks like naked as well. It's just beautifully, gorgeously bright. Is that upside down? No. Gorgeously bright. And it's just nice. It's just pretty and colourful. This is, I landed back in the US, and the very next day I went to Barnes & Noble and picked myself up a copy of this one because I knew I wanted to buy it. It's exactly how I picture it. I mean, I could talk about how beautiful books are all day long, but yeah, I will make a video talking about my collection of editions of that particular novel, because I am building quite a number of them. And what books I need to read for the rest of the year. Well, if you haven't seen my July TBR, as of filming this, we're just about halfway through July, not quite. And I don't think I'm halfway through the TBR yet. I am having a good reading month, but if you haven't watched that video, go away and watch that one, because that's basically the answer to that question. And then any subsequent TBRs I make as the year goes on. I have some proof copies that I hold in my most recent book haul and my BookCon book haul, which I obviously want to read by the end of the year. And then there are some books being released by some of my favourite authors, which are coming out for the rest of the year as well, including a Christmas Yorkshire Pudding Club follow-up from Millie Johnson, which I am just so here for. Like, as soon as I hear that there might be proof copies of that one coming out, I will be on board with that. I will be asking if I may have one of those, because that's one of my favourite Millie Johnson novels and one of my favourite novels of all time. And the fact that there's a follow-up to that one coming out, so exciting. And also, obviously, What If It's Us? And yeah, all the books. I want to read all the books. Well, as I say, I'm just over 110, and I upped my Goodreads goal to 200, so got about 90 books left to read. All these ones here behind me that I haven't already read, all of those ones. I've read quite a lot of these ones behind me, but yeah. I'm sure a lot of these tags have the people finishing up with just saying, all the books, I want to read all the books. But yeah, mainly my July TBR video, including that extra bonus library book portion I put in. So if you haven't watched that video or read those books, then go and check that out. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry it's a long one, but there's lots of questions in this tag, and there's lots of beautiful books to talk about. Don't know how I'm going to take a thumbnail picture with all of these books, and that's including like 3 or 4 that weren't even here that I didn't even have. So yeah, I will be back with a load of videos next week, which are all movie themed. So I have at least 3 book versus movie videos coming up, and a couple of trailer reactions as well, because I asked if you wanted to see a book versus movie week, and you said yes, so that's what we're doing next week. So watch out for those videos. Make sure you are subscribed so that they land straight in your subscription feed. Let me know in the comments what your favourite book of 2018 has been so far, and give this video a thumbs up just if you lasted this far. Just let me know. And yeah, I will see you with my movie themed week next week.